hopefully provide any comments back to Ryan before that meeting. And then we get kind of a final review with any comments and then vote on approval so we can send that to the Assembly and the Governor's office. And with that being said, we will do that meeting in person. We'll need to have a quorum, so we will to be able to vote. We'll need an in-person quorum. So we will dates out for poll to get some dates for that next meeting. But that'll be the kind of the plan. If you have any, one of the things I was looking at before this meeting was our previous annual reports and have it on my list to talk to Ryan about. Is looking at how do we kind of make sure we're not just updating what we've already had out there. It's an opportunity to look at kind of refreshing. I don't know. So if you have ideas or things that you think we should looking at specifically on that, please send those over to Ryan as we start.
I mean, maybe it's more to Ryan. Spend around the last version, like sooner than later.
Yep.
And don't do any work, just send it out because I think that was part of this debate.
Yep. That's a great idea.
What we go over from White Sheet.
Yeah, along with we'll send the link for the presentation from Simon, and then also the report. That's great. So then just logistics. We've got the meeting minutes in your packet. These were sent out beforehand. If there's any, we'll take a couple minutes now just to look over those. If you've got any changes or comments, take them. But just take a couple minutes and have it speak up.
Chris Brooks here. I have a question, if I may. What efforts have been made to engage with the local communities and gather their feedback on the potential construction of SMRs in our region?
Chris, that's a good question. We can address that in public comments.
I'm going to ask a follow-up question. Are any meetings going to be scheduled in the regions in which these proposed reactors are to be built?
That's not something that's in the scope of the authority. We have our meetings quarterly here, usually in Richmond or okay. Any changes or edits to the minutes? Have a motion to approve. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So, are there any updates from members? The only thing, for those of you who haven't seen it, sent this around, Ramatone and CCC launched Nuclear Training Academy at the college. So this is something that was done when we started this. In 2000. Yeah. So this is a program where students at CVCC will actually be getting training in technician work. They'll also be employed in Framingham. So we actually, I think, already have the first class that are training to go out to their first outages this fall. Central Virginia.
Yeah, just yesterday we announced Lucky Martin's is the lead partner with a venture called Draco with DARPA. We're doing the reactor, lighting, other applications. all that work will take place in Lynchburg facilities. It's happening in terms of Veterans Stadium. Those visiting MIT, we make their fuel, so that fuel is made in too. So, powers that react MIT Institute. Just a little plug since it came on.
Yeah, see the room.
Anything else? So one thing along with the annual report, I would ask everyone, I know we include this every time, but if you could take a look both at the asset list, both for your own organization's accuracy, and if there's anything else, I know Scott and I have discussed this. If you see other things that look, even if they're not for your organization, and you want to flag and just say, hey, we need to go back and check to make sure this is still up to date, that would be helpful. I think just since we all are working in the Commonwealth and understand a lot of what's going on here, if there's anything, especially for organizations that aren't represented here, that this needs to be, take a second look at it, I think that will help to make sure we're keeping that fully up to date. Yep. In terms of general nuclear news, I think we've been providing most of that to the group. There's a ton going on all the time, including Congress is considering Defense Authorization Act right now, which has a lot of stuff around fuel security and defense programs for so if you have specific questions, room, we can always answer them, but I would just say we'll continue to send that information out. With that, if there are other questions or comments from authorities before we open it up. Okay, so for those of you who are joining our meeting for maybe the first time, we just go over the process here. So this is our time for public comments. I would ask if you have or would like to make public comments, please raise your hand so we can call on everybody individually. And we don't have anybody in the room, but Erica, are you still on the phone? On the WebEx? Okay. Yes, she's not. Erica, do you have comments? We'll let you go first. Erica, you may be on mute if you're trying to talk. You can come back. Is there anyone else that wants to raise their hand on the WebEx that has comments? Tasha, please go ahead. A few minutes.
Hi, thank you. It's Tasha. Tasha Devon from Wise County. I had a question. I chair the Virginia Council of Environmental Justice, and I do know that per the Clean Economy Act that we are identified as a key stakeholder. So I was wondering, I don't remember any engagement on Virginia Organizing's behalf to come present this information to us. So I was wondering if there was anything in the future of anybody in this group who was going to come to us to do that.
Which information are you asking about specifically?
So per the Clean Energy Economy Act, we are a key stakeholder identified as a group that has to be consulted when it comes to any energy development, specifically in Southwest Virginia. And we have not heard of these plans or anything really until recently. So I was just wondering if there was any plans to communicate with our group or to communicate with the communities of Southwest Virginia.
I think one question would be on the plans specifically you're talking about, but I'm sure we can connect you with the right people to look at that. So if you want to follow up with Ryan, sure that's something to look at.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Erica, we're working on making sure we can hear you. Just 1 second.
Ivor. It says she's unmuted and able to talk. I don't know.
Erica, do you want to try again? It says on our screen that you're not on mute, so you should be able to hear you.
It's gonna look like suggesting.
All right, we'll go to Christopher Brooks.
Hi, yes. Again, I'm from Southwestern Virginia. My question is, how is the construction of SMRs in our communities going to increase the quality of life in this region? How many people are going to be employed? What are those jobs going to pay? How's that going to break down demographically? Also, how is this going to affect taxes in our region? How's this going to affect the cost of living in our region? And what are the risks in constructing these sites so close to residential and school areas that may not have been addressed by the studies cited by the industry so far? And in asking that question, I would like to refer to the citation in chat to the Stanford University and University of British Columbia studies that actually concluded that small nuclear reactors will complicate the problem of nuclear waste disposal and will present challenges in mitigating the risk to the communities.
Those are good questions. I think as a specific project or technologies identified, a lot of that information is something that will be generated and available. But right now, without a specific project, I'm not sure that those the full answer on those. And that's not really in the scope of this. We're more of an advisory role for the Commonwealth government, but not in a specific project. So that's the answer. We appreciate the engagement and happy to continue to either connect you with the right people or have further discussion.
Hello?
Hey, Erica, there you are. We can hear you.
Wow, finally. I don't know what happened with that, but yeah, I was completely muted. So you can hear me now.
We can hear you now. You're all set.
Okay. Well, a couple of things. I guess this new way of letting everybody in the public know that there's a meeting is now just going to be on this town square. Am I right? Because I didn't see it. I couldn't find it anywhere else.
Town hall is where this is publicly posted, correct?
So is that the only place it's going to be posted?
If I will accept responsibility if I did not send you the email, that is my fault.
Okay, well, yeah, I think the public can't really, be involved if they don't really know where to find the information. But besides that, I mean, obviously, I'm sure others were like me. We could not hear April pretty much at all. So, and that's the business side of the Virginia Nuclear Energy think tank. And so y'all need to get a little bit better with audio. I mean, I don't usually do audio. I'm usually there, but I've been having car trouble. So that's neither here or there. So y'all could please get better so that when we do participate on the phone that we can actually hear what's being said. Luckily, because Simon called in from London, I could hear him very well. I think the big gist in today's world of influencers, it's always a matter of how we present the information to the public on the kind of answers we want to get from them. And I thought it was very telling that we don't want to use the quote-unquote scary word, which is reactor, or show the image of cooling towers, that it's not good. And actually, small modular reactors was not either something that really wanted to be mentioned. So, of course, it's kind of like trickery, because telling people, nuclear energy technologies and renewables, blah, 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 I mean, you're going to get a different reaction than if you were actually to say, hey, our plan actually is to set up these small modular reactors at all defunct coal burning plants and use their grid that's already there. And we're going to charge y'all exorbitant prices for the energy produced, and we're going to now put everybody on the dole for the risks that are going to be implied. And yes, the Ukraine reactor, there are a lot of us that are paying attention, and we hope the world doesn't have to pay attention because we end up with another catastrophic disaster there. So what can go wrong, could go wrong, and at some point will go wrong. So small modular reactors are not the answer to climate change because of the cost, because of everything else involved, and plus these are not really out there yet. A lot of them still just on paper. I think the other biggest problem we have is you want to talk about energy dependence, or independence, should I say. I guess we're going to have to ramp up all the uranium mining again. I already saw that they're ramping up, I guess, for processing in Wyoming. Is this really clean energy when we're going to ramp up all these productions of uranium mining and processing, and then end up with more plutonium and other byproducts and more nuclear waste? Because the waste, it's not honest. It's not real. And in the words of scientists and someone that I respect a lot in Canada, Gordon Edwards, and I'll paraphrase because this is also true, that, besides this technology not being able to compete, that there is a fundamental problem with nuclear. It doesn't matter the size, the design, the coolant, or the type of fuel. All is based on splitting atoms, and they don't disappear. Yet get broken down into hundreds of pieces that are now millions of times more radioactive than the fuel they started with. The fact is, every nuclear reactor, no matter the size, is not just a machine to generate electricity or heat, but is also a warehouse of radioactive poison. And in today's world, cyber problems, there was one at one of the major labs not a couple of months ago. Anything can happen. Last thing we need is to dot around our country or the world these little warehouses of poison. It's just not smart. And to make matters worse, we don't have the ability to look at making our own fuel because of our Russian ties to fuel are cut off, and the same thing with the rest of the world. So we're going to have new uranium mining and whatnot, or other fuels. This is not clean energy, and it's very expensive. The public-private partnership, the public needs to be informed correctly with the whole full truth, not like half-truth or partial emissions or whatever y'all are doing. The reality is we already have lots of nuclear waste sitting around at every nuclear power plant already, and it's sitting in the pools that are overfilled. And they're dragging their feet, the industry drags its feet, the utilities on unloading these into Haas, where supposedly it's a little bit safer. These are not going to be able to just pop them down into a hole in the ground and just forget about it. This is a lot more complicated. So we don't have the solutions for what we have already. It makes absolutely positively no sense to make more of it. And that's not to even consider that the nuclear canisters we have right now, we don't even know how long they'll last. So all this gibberish talking about new nuclear, small nuclear, which is not small either, by the way. You want to make people think in their minds it's something small, but it's not. So, this industry, this consortium, this authority should really be looking at securing the waste that we have now and the canisters not making more of it. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you everybody for joining us. Keep an eye out for the poll to the October meeting. This materials the last year's annual report and presentation from today. But we appreciate everybody's time. Have a good one. Yeah, probably. See you there. People, if you have to, sometimes problem.